Hello everyone and welcome to The Entrepreneur's Journey. I am Andy Bryan and today I'm delighted to bring to you another incredible and inspiring story. Today we're going to be talking about money. Yes, it is a very taboo subject, but it's going to be a subject that will hopefully enlighten each one of us today. Today we're going to be talking about connecting with your money story. And today I'm here speaking with Caroline Domanska. So welcome, Caroline. Before we get started into your story, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Right, so I'm Caroline Domanska, and what I do is I'm a money mindset coach. So simply put, I help people think and behave differently around money so they can create more wealth in their life. So wealth in a physical sense, but also in an emotional and sense as well, so they lead a richer life in all ways.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, I love the physical aspects of the journey as well as the emotional aspects of the journey. It's all encompassing to create us as individuals and people.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree.
Fantastic. So let's jump into your story.
Okay.
And it's been really insightful to speak with you on a brief level about your journey and story and what's led you into your work today. And I know you've had your own challenging experiences with money, but that's obviously made you into the character that you are today and an amazing coach you are today, helping other people with their money. So in regards to starting your journey and story, usually it's a place of pain and discomfort. We're unhappy with our lives, we want to make a shift and make a change. When we think about this in regards to money, sometimes we think about this as possibly being in a place where we don't have the finance we want. We might be owing a lot of debt, you could say, or whatever situation it might be. If I was to ask you, did you have a situation like that in your life?
Yeah, yes, I did. I mean, I'm a bit of a sort of person of two sides, really, because in the beginning, I've always been, if I look back to sort of when I first started earning money and so forth, or had money, I was always very good at counting my pennies. I loved the old piggy banks and making sure I had everything in the right place and so forth. But that culminated really to a point in when I bought my first property, my first flat. And I'd always been quite restrictive with money with myself up to that point. It was more important to save and make sure money was going in the right place, and I used to get tense about where even like the last 5p or 1p had gone, and then I moved into my flat and sort of threw that all out the window, really. I think it was somehow I felt like I'd arrived, or I deserved all these different things the trappings that go with having your first home. So off I went, made sure I had nice sofas, new gadgets for the kitchen, new this, new that, new carpets, some things on finance, some things not, and just kind of made it like basically, like I say, like I'd arrived, really, I think, and I was trying to show how far I'd come in such a short space of time for all my kind of physical possessions around me at that point. So, but ultimately that meant I was spending more than I was earning. So, they're not a very clever point either for me.
So you found yourself amounting somewhat of a debt within your finance programs.
At that point, yeah. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. But for me, for someone who'd gone from being very, very diligent with their money to almost kind of not really looking at it properly, being very driven, very emotionally about what I wanted around money at that point, rather than being logical around it, then got myself into a small debt situation, really, that wasn't palatable to myself. And had I carried on in that vibe, I think it would have been a lot worse, to be honest. So.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So you found yourself in this situation, obviously, and you obviously found it difficult in this situation. Did you look for anybody for advice to help you, manage your money at this time, be a bit more diligent, like you said? Someone that was maybe a mentor that could help you guide out of this situation.
Yeah, well, at the time, I've always been the sort of person who thinks well, previously, always thinks you should be able to do it yourself. So could be quite stubborn-headed at the time about finding my own way. But actually, I did come to the realisation that my own way wasn't really getting me very far. So I looked at it I had advice from two sort of different sectors, really. One was in terms of actually sorting out the debt, and that was my partner at the time who'd been in debt before himself. And once I confessed my situation, it was actually relatively easy to sort out. It was just you had to make some decisions. I had some savings, which I was kind of like, no, that's my savings, that's over there, I don't want to touch it. I also looked to sell my car as well at the time as well, just to kind of minimise out the outgoings and things. And there was a sense of quite sort of failure really around that. But my partner helped me see that actually having a clean slate was better to start off with, and then building from that was a better way forward, rather than sort of burying my head in the sand around it at the time. And it didn't really have to be seen as a failure. I'd come a long way in terms of my finances anyway. It was just the way I was choosing to think about it, I think. So go on, sorry.
It's interesting you mentioned that in regards to situation and viewing it as a failure.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask you, and I wasn't sure about bringing this up yet or not, but if I was to ask you about your culture, your beliefs, and the society you were brought up in, you could say the home environment, or even the culture around your home in terms of money. What was it like where you were growing up?
I think that's a really, really important question, Andy, because I think our money, how we're conditioned around money and how we think and behave around money is learned from very early on, and many facets of life, actually. It doesn't just apply to money. So for me, I mean, my childhood was it was pretty good. I didn't have any horrible stories really to tell around that, other than my parents were they did instill quite a sense of diligence on money, that you should always get good value from stuff that you spend your money on, and you should save for something really before you spend, but also that finance was okay as long as you got a good deal on it, basically. And I'm one of 4 children, and I'm the eldest of 4, and we got pocket money from I think I was probably about 7 or 8 probably when I started to get pocket money. And my dad always kept note of this in every week. This locked red box would come down from the high kitchen cupboard that none of us could reach. And it'd come down, it'd open the box, and out would come the little book, and he'd write down what we were due and whether we had done enough to deserve that money that week. And so that kind of instilled this kind of like a regime, I guess, around money. But on top of that, we also became quite competitive, the 4 of us, in terms of we were encouraged not to take our money at the time if we didn't need it. So we didn't have anything we wanted to spend it on, we should roll it over to the next week. And so that somehow we were thinking we were getting more. So we all got a bit competitive about that. But it's the same money, but on that basis.
It's good to have that different organisation, that organisation from your dad setting plans into place so that you can manage it a lot more easier.
But then on the other side, like, my mum doesn't really like talking about money, although she can be. She's relatively organised with it and all of that kind of thing, but she just doesn't like to talk about it unless it's like getting a bargain or a good deal on something. But she wouldn't talk about her personal finance. And so I suppose for me, the imprint that's left is that money is something that should be protected and almost held away at like arm's reach, a bit like that box up above the kitchen cupboard, right? And for me, that has manifested over time in being too restrictive in terms of my own lifestyle, and worry about money. And no matter how much money you have, you still don't feel financially secure, because it still doesn't feel like there's enough in that box, if that makes sense, all the time. So even if you look back on your childhood or your experiences with money and you think, well, they were pretty good, it's out, and like, no, and they definitely were good in terms of the values that my parents had instilled in me, but they also have their flip sides, right? So definitely. You've got to see what's the flip side of it. How is that coming out in your life, and how is that making you feel and behave around money, and is that to your benefit, or do you want to skew it in a different way, maybe?
If I was to ask you to, if we then come back to your mentor, your mentors, and I remember you saying to me that you had a sales manager at the time. That's right, yeah. And you said your boyfriend at the time as well.
Yeah.
If I was to ask about your mentor is obviously your guide to support you and give you some lessons and learnings to help you grow and develop. What were your lessons in regards to your road of trials, your challenges and obstacles that you faced? First of all, what were the challenges you faced, and how did you overcome some of those hurdles as you came across them?
I think my challenges at that particular time, were that I, on a physical sense, that I needed more income than I had. So, and that's really where my sales manager came to the fore. And that's, at that point was when she was very good at motivating you around your purpose and what you wanted to do and why you needed extra. What is it that you wanted to do with this money? So no point just setting yourself a sales target, let's say, and not really having any true kind of want or purpose behind it. Is less motivating. So she was good at bringing out that side of us, and spent quite a lot of time discussing our goals and our dreams and our desires and where we were going, along with all the usual things like sales skills and being good at your job technically and all of that kind of stuff. So and that gave me the first real taste that I could steer my own ship financially, in terms of I can control what I earn to an extent, depending on the amount of effort and desire and motivation I can put around that. So that was my first taste of that, and it's interesting how that's worked throughout my life. But my first taste of that, and I thought, I never want to work in a job again, or where I don't have the ability, to some extent, to write my own salary check. Hence why I work for myself, because I wrote my own salary check. So
you say, obviously, connecting with your passion allowed you to do that. Connecting with what was important to you allowed you to build your finance in a way that was based around the way you wanted to live your life.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was finding your real purpose at the time, really, what it was that you really wanted this money to do for you, not just like, I want to earn another £10,000. I mean, so it's always, well, so why do you want to do that? What's the purpose? Why would you like to earn more? What's that going to do for you, and why is it important for you? Why haven't you done it yet? Probably why I ended up in terms of conversations.
In regards to other things, then, to help you out of the situation of obviously having a bit of debt that you had amounted up, obviously trying to create this financial freedom within yourself again. Yeah. What other things did you implement and put into place in order to manage your money a bit better and really create that freedom?
I think at the time, it's partly, as I say, was increase in income, and then it was having a really proper, good and honest look at what I had coming out and what I could choose to keep in my life, in terms of physical sense, in my life and not. So there comes a point where you have to be, I think, pretty honest with yourself and sit down and actually look at the figures. And I know a lot of my clients bury their head in the sand around that. They sort of think, well, for this point in life, and this is exactly the conversation I was having with myself at the time, for this point in life and where I am, I should be able to afford, with the job I've got and the flat I've got, I should be able to afford X, Y, Z to go with it. So rather than looking at the actual concrete, hard figures around that, I worked on this sense that I should be able to afford it, and that's the kind of thing that I should be showing to everyone. And I see that happen with my clients time and time again. And it's funny how we like to avoid our figures. We don't really like to confront the truth very often. So.
And I think, like you said, in regards to that should statement, I should be in this situation now. I should have this in my life.
Yeah.
You know, the more shoulds we have, it weighs us down. You know, it weighs us down. Like, I should be here. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And then I think, wow, I need to rise up again. I'm feeling, you know, really bad now because I've put myself in this situation, which you know, in some way or form, it's a situation I've created for myself. But you want to create that positive mindset around it, like you said, you know. Yeah,
yes, I think so. And looking at your, actually being honest with yourself and looking at your figures can be very empowering. It doesn't have to be a disempowering situation. It might be a bit of a shock when you first do it sometimes for people, but actually it allows you to start, once you've looked at something, you can start being creative about how you're going to find that solution rather than just kind of hoping it's going to be okay. And that's when you do need to take some bold steps potentially, either in terms of income generation or reduction of outgoings, you know, or a bit of both essentially. And that's the route that I took. I took both of those routes, reduction of outgoings and increase of income when I got into that situation. So,
would you say that? What would you say are other things that you do to implement creating that good mindset, creating that good money management solution for individuals or even businesses?
Yeah, so I use a system of envelopes or jars or pots essentially that are for different purposes and different things, because I think a lot of people, in my experience, have a full sense of how much they have available to spend on a monthly basis. And I don't ever want actually anybody to feel restricted by their money, because if you put a budget in place which says you can only have one latte a week and you know, and you've got to wait till 2020 till you can go on holiday again or something like that, then it's like being on a sort of a fad diet. You could probably do it for, you know, 3 or 4 months or something, and you might get some results, but then you'll be like, oh, this is too much, and then just chuck it all out the window. The system that I put in place and I use personally for myself and used for a long time is one where you allocate money towards different things, and how this creates a positive mindset for you is that it allows you to see that the door is open to all these different things that can happen in your life. So, for example, I have a pot for financial freedom, money that I'm going to use to invest and to create more financial wealth for myself or income for myself. Now, some people might say, oh, well, I can't do that until I've cleared my debt or until I earn X amount and so forth. But actually, even if you put £5 a month into it and committed to doubling that every 3 months or something, then it's opened the door. It's given that chink of light that, yeah, I can create some financial freedom. And once you've started it, you've got that momentum going and your brain starts working on different solutions. How am I going to fill that pot? What other things can I do? Opportunities come. You know?
I love what you called it as well, because I remember you saying to me you would call it the freedom jar.
Yeah.
I know we had the conversation around if you were to call it something completely different, like your pension fund or whatever it might be, or your safe. Even your safe is like you're locking it away.
Yes.
Put shackles on it in a way, and it's not safe for you to take it in some respects, or you're keeping it for a rainy day, but you really want to spend it when you want to spend it. That
money is for you to use at any time to make more money. So it might go towards like a business opportunity, for example, or you might invest in the stock market, or you might put it in a high interest account, or whatever you might choose to do with it, a variety of things, but it's there to create more for you, but not necessarily after 65 years. and now it's time to retire. It could be, you could put your mind to it, you could attain financial freedom way before that and be in a position where you're choosing to work rather than having to work. So it's just a bit about being creative with your brain, with your systems, I think, around that.
So we look at your road of trials then, and you've implemented a lot of different things that have helped to support your own financial freedom, so you can create this financial freedom for yourself. Yeah. Was there a moment within your life and your story that everything shifted within you, and you created that financial freedom, you created that success within yourself, and you were happy, content with where you were?
So that's really been in the last few years, I would have said, and that's been a journey. If I wind it back, probably about 7 or 8 years, and when I moved overseas to live overseas in Abu Dhabi for a while, doing the same role that I was doing here as a financial advisor at the time, and that gave me that what I was saying earlier about being the ability to track my own salary check. Well, this was different because there was no salary, so I was writing my. It was a commission-based role. You built your business from scratch, essentially. Worked under the umbrella of a company, and it was like, right, got your desk, got your phone, off you go. build your empire. So I did, and so that was really good in terms of creating financial freedom, because in a role like that where you don't have any salary or anything like that, then it tends to be a little bit more lucrative than perhaps a salaried role. And also I was good at it. I did very well. I built my portfolio there on recommendation and referral. After I got the ball rolling, I was well respected in the industry and so forth. So yeah, I built a really good business out there. So in terms of financial bottom line, i.e. money in the bank and all of that kind of stuff, and creating a passive income stream for the future, it ticked those boxes tremendously. But where my beliefs got in the way were around, because your question was around where did I find sort of happiness around that as well. So despite having more financial wealth, I didn't necessarily feel happy with it. I still felt like that I needed more, and I still didn't feel that security, financial security that should come with having more wealth. But ultimately, security is just another word for fear, because if we're looking for security, actually we're just afraid of what's going to happen on the other side, if that makes sense. Afraid of what happens if we don't have that.
Afraid of the future, yeah. Afraid of potentially what could happen.
So exactly. So for some people, they could have 5 million or 10 million or 100 million in the bank, and they still wouldn't feel secure around money because they're still fearful of what's going to happen in the future. So my strong belief at the time was that the only way to make more money was through hard work. So that kept me working a lot, like a lot. I used to work like weekends, evenings, early mornings. I was always working, really, pretty much over that time. Lucky I had my other half was understanding, and he liked to play a lot of golf, so we were all right in that respect. But really, in terms of your physical well-being and your relationships, both with your partner and friends and all of that kind of thing, it's something that you can't sustain for a long time if you work at that kind of pace. So when did the penny drop as such, and when did I realise that that just having money wasn't going to make me happy? I think it's probably the question that I'm driving toward. And I think that was the point. Well, started with a point where I was on a training course through work. When I was overseas, and it was based around, or part of it was based around neuroscience and how our brains worked and where our thought patterns came from and so forth. And it was the first time I'd really grasped that I was driven by my beliefs, my thoughts, and those thoughts were, all I was doing with those thoughts was trying to create feelings from that, and those then correlate my actions and my results, or my behaviour and my results. And it sounds like a strange thing to have not realised it, in my mid-30s, however I was at that point. But I think to that point I'd really thought I was just controlled by some, I don't know, like an outside entity or something, really, that it wasn't really something in my control, really. These thoughts just appeared from somewhere. But once I learned that you could choose to create new thoughts that would become stronger than those old thoughts and be more beneficial and more empowering to you, then that's when things started to change. So
that's when you realised you didn't have to work so hard. You could create that balance and harmony within your life and your finance and other parts of your life. Might have been your lifestyle changed a bit more from that workaholic, which I find myself to be at times as well. It's good. I love what I do, which is great, but we need to have that balance, don't we? We need to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're that sort of person, you will always have those tendencies. I think it's quite hard to erase completely that hard work ethic and so forth. In fact, you can't. I believe you can't really erase any beliefs. I think you could strengthen other ones and
create a new belief system.
Create new beliefs that become like that. If you imagine being in a forest, it's that bigger path that you've seen, and the other ones become overgrown and all covered up. But it can still be there in the background. And so I do still have like a hard work ethic, but I'm also much better nowadays at prioritising what it is or creating different priorities for myself and in all scopes of my life. So not just work, but work, well-being, personal development, family, and so forth. And I can balance those all much better way without thinking that, because I've seen that actually that can make me more productive in the time that I do have to work and generate income and generate money. And I've also been more creative over time around how I do generate money, so that helps.
So if I was to ask you now, coming towards the end of the show, how would you describe yourself now, and what do you do in your business, and how do you help people within their business based on the journey that you've gone through and how you've grown and developed?
Okay, so I describe myself as on the path to financial freedom. I'm a good way of the length there, and that's not just through, because for me financial freedom isn't just about exchanging my time for money. It's about having other streams of passive income and residual income that I'm not exchanging my time for money for. So I'm on the path definitely to creating those, so that there'll be a point, hopefully in the not too far future, where I'm choosing to work rather than having to work in order to cover at least what I would call my simplified lifestyle. So I have a level of income that I need coming in that would cover all my bills and like my basic and my necessities and that sort of thing. And that's what I'm driving towards creating sooner rather than later. And then everything I own on top of that pays for my upgraded life around that. So I certainly that's how I'd say in a physical sense of where I am financially now. And then in terms of my mindset and where I am, I'm much more creative and open to opportunity. I look at managing my money as another job, but I'm just as passionate about managing my money as I am about managing my work. Because if I manage my money well and I look after my money well, it will look after me. That's the way I see it. So in terms of mindset, I'm much more positive, and I look and educate myself around managing my money all the time. So I'm a good source of input from that point of view. So that's me, where I am. And then you asked how I help my clients.
Yeah, what do you do for your work now, and how do you help them with their life?
Okay. So my clients sort of range from people who feel that they've got a bit stuck with where they are in terms of money, that situation I was describing earlier, where they feel like they should be able to afford what they're earning, afford what they're spending now. But it doesn't seem to be kind of working out that way, because they don't seem to be building any savings, or maybe they're even creating some debt as well. They're managing their debt okay, but they just don't really feel very comfortable with it. And it's like, well, if this carries on, we can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Without any light at the end of the tunnel, we're getting more and more disillusioned. Like, what are we doing all this for? Why are we, like, flogging ourselves and, rushing up to London every day, or whatever it is you're doing, that you're getting disillusioned with it. And then some people feel very stuck, and other people are on the path already of, so they don't feel particularly stuck, but they know they want to take that next level up. And they're thinking, well, as much as I keep trying and doing all these great things and being really positive, I keep hitting the ceiling all the time. What's happening? Why is that happening for me? And how can I get above it? So in both those instances, we look at the way that I help my clients is we really look at the practical side of things first of all. So where are you with money? What's coming in? What's going out? What systems do you have in place? What's your asset situation? What's your debts? Really, so we can just get a good picture. And then I help them implement the management system I was talking about earlier with the different jars. Because what that does is start giving you a really, really realistic view of what you've got left to spend each month. So it gives you money for freedom, it gives you money for fun, which must be spent every month. That's an important rule about the fun pot. And it gives you money for things like your holidays and all that sort of thing that you might want to do. Money to educate yourself, to grow your own personal development. And this is all within your grasp. It's just that if we don't have a system set up around that, then we end up just like kind of having money and we just sort of spend it, and then we think, oh, what happened to all that money this year? I don't know. Just kind of went on coffees and eating out and this and that and new things here, and you haven't got anything concrete to show for it. So it's helping people to have something to show for their money, but still giving them the freedom to spend what they have left exactly how they like. So it removes the guilt around money as well. So in a nutshell, help people have a system that starts to create financial freedom for them, allows them to have fun, and also removes guilt around spending as well, which is really important. And then to oomph that all up and power it all up is that you could just do that practical stuff, right? And that's something you could do just as a standalone. But really, to oomph it up and make sure it really works, is you want to look at your money story, which is what we've been talking about today. And where's your story taking you, and what sort of things has that made you believe around money over time that might not be serving you anymore? And how can we change that for you? And also any sabotages you're putting in place in terms of that ceiling that you keep hitting.
Definitely.
Often people look at your income actually and see that you've got like a natural kind of energetic ceiling that you've never really been above. 30 grand, 50 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is. There's something that's stopping you taking yourself above that, so we explore that as well. So it's practical as well as oomping it up and really powering it up by unlocking what those beliefs and drivers and sabotages are around money over time, so that this becomes a healthy way of living for you on a long-term basis.
Definitely. And I was to ask you why you do what you do then, now based on how has your journey made an impact for you to wanting to support others?
Well, it's over time. So I spent 15 years as a financial advisor, and prior to that worked in banking. So I spent a lot of time in money, and I always felt that there was a space to have a forum for people to talk about their money and their money experiences and what they were doing and their worries and their concerns and so forth. But who do they turn to? If you're in a lot of debt, you'd go and see a debt counsellor. But might not be in a huge amount of debt, or you might just have debt that you're managing fine. So you wouldn't go and see a debt counsellor necessarily. And then you could talk to a financial advisor about money, but the financial advisor, ultimately, people perceive they need quite a lot of money to go and see a financial advisor potentially. Plus, ultimately, the advisor earns money from selling you products, right? So it's a product-driven situation. So I always thought, well, what about the people in the middle? Who do they talk to?
Yeah.
We don't here talk to our we do a little bit talk to family and friends and things about money, but not in a very honest way. I don't think in this country. It's all about, we might talk about how much our house is worth and gone up in value.
Yeah.
And we might be able to imagine how much money somebody has by the car they drive. But beyond that, really, we don't know the details of anybody's financial life, and it's not very often that people share it. So really, who do they talk to? And I always felt, well, I've loved the journey. As a financial advisor, I always like the journey bit the best. Where are you now?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be, and what's stopping you getting there?
Yeah.
And I thought, if I could take away the sales part of it, how would that change the complexion of what we could do, and how much deeper could we go underneath?
Yeah.
And from knowing my journey, where on the surface, where it looks like I've done very well with money, which I have, in terms of, you know, figures in the bank and such, but that journey of my emotions that went with that, and the hard work and everything that was connected with it, and now how much happier I am in that situation, I want to share that and help other people get to that point as well, and know that it's all within their grasp, that it's all just there waiting for them to have. It's just that a few tweaks need to be made to get it moving.
Yeah, and like you say, unlock those blocks, because we all have those blocks around money, you know, because it's such a taboo subject. You know, how can we break free from those things, you know? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's not an open culture here around money at all. So, you know, you rarely know people's money stories, or how much they earn, or anything like that. So yeah, we don't get to share or hear much on that basis.
Definitely. But where can we find out more about yourself and your work in regards to your business?
Okay, so my website is www.moneymindsetcoaching.co.uk, and I'm also on Facebook under Money Mindset Coaching, and Twitter as Money Mind Coach. So 3 ways, depending on. Oh, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. So Caroline Domanska on LinkedIn.
And you support people all over the world, obviously, as well, do you? With their finances?
I do, yeah. I'm based in the UK, but actually I do a lot of meetings over Skype. So I'm happy to support people wherever they are in the world. Because of my connections in the Middle East, I already do quite a lot of work over Skype there. But I'm also dealt with lots of different nationalities over time by virtue of living overseas. So
yeah,
happy to deal with anyone, really.
Fantastic. Well, it's only currency at the end of the day, isn't it? So that's the only difference.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, different people we do have different ideas around money depending on where you're from, but I think ultimately it's all a very personal journey as well. So but yeah, there'll be some cultural things from different places, but I think ultimately it's your personal journey. So
excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your journey and story, and really what's led you to getting to you where you are today, because it's amazing how you can obviously support people by the journey that you've gone through as well, and also obviously the education that you've gone through. But I think the personal story that you've gone through can really help people resonate with you, can't it? And they understand that they're in the same place that you are, or you have been. Yeah, so they can resonate, you know.
Exactly. And yeah, and I really appreciate you allowing me to share my story today. I always enjoy talking about it, and I hope that you know there's 1 or 2 things there that people can pick up and then go, oh yeah, that's me, and that's what I'm looking for. So thank you very much.
Definitely, it's a pleasure. And for those of you who are listening in, you can find out more about Caroline on her website, obviously. And I will post all of the links below the videos, either on YouTube, on my website, which is www.theentrepreneur'sjourney.tv, or you can even find all of her links on iTunes if you're listening to the podcast as well. So thank you all for tuning in today. It's been a pleasure for you to join us, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. With that, I'll say bye for now.
The Entrepreneur's Journey. Create your empowering business story. Interviewing successful entrepreneurs from around the world to share their inspiring journey to success. Tune in live every week for your weekly dose of inspiration. Visit www.theentrepreneur'sjourney.tv for previous episodes.